Professor Krells stands before 17 alien species, declaring Earth's apex predator will be revealed. The audience trembles behind Class 7 containment fields, imagining monstrous war beasts. Ambassador Thorn tries to explain it's just a pet, but no one listens. What they don't know is that the galaxy's most feared creature is currently napping in a carrier, dreaming of sunbeams. You know how most academic conferences feature dry presentations and lukewarm beverages in paper cups? This was something else entirely. Galactic University's main amphitheater glowed under precise lighting, packed with representatives from 17 distinct species, all waiting for the main event. The air hummed with restrained energy, a low-frequency buzz of translation devices and nervous systems. Every seat offered a clear view of the central demonstration stage, which was encircled by multiple shimmering energy barriers. Professor Krells took the podium, his 7 eyes surveying the room with quiet authority. He opened with a statement that sent literal shivers through the crowd. The university would today reveal Earth's most effective terrestrial predator under full security protocol. You could feel the collective tension snap tight. Audience members, crystalline entities, avian scholars, sentient gas clouds, visibly recoiled or adjusted their shielding. Medical drones hovered silently in alcoves, and backup teleport systems glowed with standby readiness. Krells described humanity's rise not through technology or intellect, but through what he termed a baffling tendency to domesticate potential threats. He spoke of interspecies warfare, evolutionary dominance, and predation strategies so advanced they defied conventional xenobiological models. His voice took on the cadence of a military briefing. This wasn't an academic talk. It felt more like the launch of a new class of warship. The audience hung on his every word. Avian scholars rustled their feathers. Crystalline beings refracted light more sharply. Silicon-based life forms emitted low-frequency vibrations of alarm. They'd all read the reports, heard the rumors. Humanity's homeworld was a death trap, they'd been told, its creatures perfected by millennia of ruthless competition. And now they were about to meet the best of them. Meanwhile, at the edge of the stage, human Ambassador Thorn glanced at his wrist chronometer. He shifted his weight, folded his arms, and exhaled slowly. His expression was a study in practiced neutrality, but if you looked closely, you could see the faintest tightening around his eyes. He'd been to these kinds of presentations before. They never ended well, but here's where things get interesting. While Professor Krells spun his grand theories about Earth's ruthless evolutionary hierarchy, Ambassador Thorn stood off to the side, looking like someone watching a badly translated documentary about his own culture. You could see him taking a half step forward every few minutes, opening his mouth to say something reasonable, then thinking better of it as the professor's dramatic pronouncements rolled on uninterrupted. Finally managed to cut in when Krells described humanity's biological imperative for interspecies conquest. Thorn's voice cut through the theatrical silence with the pragmatic tone of someone explaining basic household facts. Actually, he said, we tend to keep these animals as companions. They sleep on our furniture. We buy them toys. The translation devices flickered slightly, struggling with concepts like petting and scratching post. Professor Krells dismissed him with a wave of 3 hands. The ambassador underestimates his own species' predatory instincts, he told the audience, his voice dripping with academic condescension. This apparent domestication is clearly an advanced form of psychological warfare tactic. You could see Thorn's jaw tighten. He ran a hand through his hair and took a measured breath. He tried again when Krells began describing hypothetical hunting techniques. Most of those stories come from entertainment simulations, Thorn explained patiently. Dramatized versions for viewing pleasure. The avian scholars in the front row exchanged nervous glances, apparently interpreting this as some sort of human deception strategy. Their feathers ruffled in synchronized alarm patterns. The crystalline beings nearby emitted low-frequency hums of suspicion. What made it truly fascinating was the cultural gap in operation. Every time Thorn tried to simplify things, the aliens interpreted his plain speaking as some sophisticated human trick. His straightforward explanations about feeding schedules and veterinarian visits got translated into tactical logistics and biological maintenance protocols in the audience's notes. Their sensors probably detected his elevated heart rate and recorded it as handler displaying controlled aggression signals. Thorn's patience visibly drained away minute by minute. He stopped trying to correct the wilder assumptions about pack hunting strategies and alpha dominance hierarchies. You could see the moment he decided to stop fighting the narrative, his shoulders relaxed, his expression went neutral, and he just nodded slowly at whatever outrageous claim Krells made next. He slipped a hand into his pocket and seemed to be mentally counting backward from 10. The professor mistook his silence for respectful deference and doubled down on his performance. Thorn just watched, his face now carefully blank, though if you looked closely, you might catch the faintest twitch at the corner of his mouth when Krells described Earth's predators as bioweapons with fur. He'd clearly reached that diplomatic point where arguing becomes counterproductive. Sometimes you have to let people see the evidence for themselves. Now picture the specific fears running through that amphitheater. You could practically see the nightmare predators taking shape in each species' collective imagination, tailored to their deepest biological vulnerabilities. Every group projected their own unique terrors onto that still unseen creature behind the containment field. The bird-like Zephyr scholars rustled their feathers nervously, discussing predators with vision that could pierce absolute darkness and movement so silent they'd never hear the approach. Their worry focused on aerial combat advantages, creatures that could outmaneuver them in tight spaces or strike from above without warning. They kept glancing upward, as if expecting an attack from the amphitheater's ceiling. Crystalline beings emitted low-frequency vibrations of concern, their structures subtly rearranging to reinforce weakest points. They imagined vibration-based hunting techniques, predators that could shatter mineral formations with precisely tuned resonance attacks. Their discussion centered on sonic weapons and frequency-based predation, with several scholars already running defensive harmonic calculations on their data slates. Gas form entities swirled with agitated patterns, their normal flow disrupted by anxiety about dispersion tactics. They feared sudden pressure changes that could rupture their containment fields or sonic weapons that might destabilize their molecular cohesion. Their conversation buzzed with concerns about atmospheric manipulation and thermal hunting strategies. The room filled with murmured speculation about rumored capabilities. They discussed infrared vision that could detect body heat through walls, hearing sensitive enough to track heartbeat rhythms, and movement patterns that left no detectable trace. Each species interpreted these abilities through their own survival frameworks, creating increasingly elaborate threat profiles. Physical reactions varied dramatically across the amphitheater. Avian species preened and ruffled defensive plumage. Mineral-based lifeforms tested their structural integrity with subtle crystalline shifts. Amphibious delegates maintained moisture levels with increased frequency. The collective anxiety became so palpable that environmental controls automatically engaged, stabilizing atmospheric pressure and humidity against the rising stress indicators. Security systems recorded 16 separate panic signatures from various delegates' bioreadings. 3 medical drones activated preemptively, hovering near the most visibly distressed audience members. The containment field generators hummed at 80% capacity, far beyond normal demonstration levels. What made this particularly ironic was how each species' fears reflected their own evolutionary history, rather than Earth's reality. They weren't imagining an actual predator. They were seeing manifestations of their own planetary survival challenges. The birdfolk feared aerial dominance because that was their primary threat back home. Crystal beings worried about resonance attacks because that's what endangered them in their native environments. The academic discourse escalated into near panic as scholars cited dubious research and amplified rumors into certainties. A Zephyr ornithologist claimed Earth predators could see in 12-spectrum vision. A crystalline physicist argued for quantum entanglement hunting techniques. The gas-form delegates proposed atmospheric composition weapons beyond current scientific understanding. Meanwhile, inside the carrier at the center of all this anxiety, Earth's most fearsome predator was deeply asleep, one paw twitching slightly as he dreamed of chasing dust motes in a sunbeam. His biggest concern at that moment was whether someone would remember his afternoon feeding time. The contrast between galactic terror and mundane reality couldn't have been more extreme if they'd planned it as comedy. So the moment of truth arrives with anticlimactic simplicity. A standard plastic pet carrier gets carried into the demonstration arena by 2 uniformed assistants. It's the kind you'd see at any Earth veterinary clinic. Scratched along the sides, a simple metal grate door, one corner slightly chewed, No energy fields shimmer around it. No warning labels announce biohazard levels. It just sits there looking completely ordinary under the bright lights. The audience leans forward in unison, 17 species expecting some reinforced containment vessel or pulsating energy cage. Instead, they get what appears to be storage equipment. You can see the confusion ripple through the amphitheater. Avian scholars tilt their heads. Crystalline beings emit questioning harmonic frequencies. The gas-form delegates swirl with patterns of disbelief. Professor Krells announces the predator's arrival with ceremonial gravity, his 7 eyes wide with dramatic emphasis. Behold, he intones, the pinnacle of terrestrial predation. His voice echoes through the silent amphitheater. Ambassador Thorne stands off to the side, one hand covering his mouth in what might be a cough or suppressed amusement. His shoulders shake slightly. From inside the carrier comes the faintest rustling sound. It's not the menacing scrape of claws they expected. It sounds more like fabric shifting, followed by a soft thump. Every sensor in the room immediately focuses on the simple plastic box. Display screens show organic lifeform readings, but the scans can't resolve the specific form through the material. The energy signatures register as decidedly non-threatening. The tension spikes when the carrier lid rattles slightly. It's not a violent shaking, just the kind of bump you'd get from something turning around inside. Several delegates instinctively lean back. The Zephyr scholars flare their feathers defensively. A crystalline being near the front adjusts its structural alignment to better withstand potential projectile attacks. Security systems automatically elevate to 90% readiness. The containment field generators emit a higher-pitched hum. Medical drones activate their full array of sensors. Every instrument in the amphitheater focuses on that ordinary plastic box sitting under the lights. Professor Krells gestures dramatically toward the carrier. Witness the awakening of Earth's most formidable hunter. His voice cracks with excitement. The audience holds its collective breath. Translation devices stand ready to interpret whatever roar or snarl emerges. Weapons officers have their hands hovering over emergency protocols. Ambassador Thorne finally drops his hand from his mouth, revealing an expression of pure, resigned amusement. He gives a slight shrug toward the carrier, as if to say, when you're ready. The contrast between Krell's theatrical presentation and Thorne's casual demeanor couldn't be more striking. The entire galaxy's brightest minds prepare themselves. They've imagined razor-sharp claws, multiple rows of teeth, armored plating, venomous appendages. They've prepared for creatures that move faster than sight, strike without warning, consume prey whole. Their academic training has them anticipating biological marvels of predation efficiency. But what emerges when that carrier door finally clicks open defies every expectation they've constructed over the past hour. The reality is so far from their imagined terror that for a moment, the entire amphitheater simply stops processing information. The disconnect between anticipation and actuality is absolute. You know that moment when reality completely undermines anticipation? When the monster under your bed turns out to be a rumpled sweater, the carrier door clicked open and out stepped Earth's most fearsome predator, an orange tabby cat named Mr. Whiskers. He stretched leisurely, arching his back like he'd just woken from a good nap, which he had. His fur caught the light, showing patches where he'd been sleeping against the carrier wall. Instead of roaring or charging the containment field, he sat down and began meticulously licking one paw. The sound of his rough tongue grooming fur was amplified through the amphitheater's excellent acoustics. He worked his way from paw to ear, pausing to blink slowly at the audience with half-closed eyes. The containment field hummed pointlessly around him. The audience's collective gasp of fear dissolved into confused murmurs. A few surprised giggles rippled through the avian delegates. Their feathers, which had been raised defensively, now settled back into place. The crystalline beings emitted harmonic frequencies of confusion rather than alarm. Gas-form entities swirled in patterns that translated roughly to "wait, what?" Professor Krell's 7 eyes blinked in unsynchronized disbelief. His posture, which had been rigid with dramatic tension, now slumped slightly. He leaned toward the nearest microphone. "Ambassador? Is this some kind of test subject mix-up?" His voice lost its theatrical tone, dropping into genuine confusion. Thorne stepped forward calmly. "Professor, meet Mr. Whiskers. He's 12 years old, enjoys napping in sunbeams, and his favorite food is tuna. This is indeed Earth's representative." He spoke with the patient tone of someone explaining basic facts to a child. The translation devices struggled slightly with tuna. but conveyed the general concept of preferred nutritional substance. The containment field suddenly seemed ridiculous. Class 7 barriers designed to withstand plasma weapons now encircled a creature that was meticulously cleaning between his toes. Medical drones hovered uncertainly, their sensors registering no hostile biosignatures, no weaponized biology, no detectable threat beyond occasional loose fur. Security personnel glanced at each other, then at their control panels, then back at the cat. The dramatic buildup of the past hour collapsed into bewildered silence. You could hear the hum of the lighting system, the faint rustle of alien garments, and the soft sound of Mr. Whiskers grooming himself. Scholars looked from their elaborate note-taking devices to the mundane reality before them, then back to their devices as if expecting them to provide some explanation. Professor Krells cleared his throat, all 7 eyes refocusing with academic determination. The initial shock began to fade, replaced by professional pride. He wasn't about to let actual evidence undermine a perfectly good theoretical framework. His posture straightened, his voice regained its authoritative tone, and he gestured toward the still grooming cat with renewed conviction. So the professor did what any academic would when faced with evidence that contradicts their life's work. He doubled down. The gears of scholarly interpretation began turning again, but now they had to process an orange tabby cat instead of the monster they'd imagined. Mr. Whiskers, for his part, finished his grooming and began investigating an interesting speck on the demonstration floor, completely unaware he'd just shattered an entire amphitheater's expectations. But here's where the real comedy begins. Professor Krells rallied with the determination of an academic whose entire theoretical framework had just been challenged by 20 pounds of orange fur. You could practically see the gears turning behind his 7 eyes as he attempted to salvage both the presentation and his professional reputation. He straightened his posture, adjusted his speaking device, and launched into what might be the most creative interpretation of house cat behavior in galactic history. He pointed to Mr. Whiskers, who was now thoroughly cleaning his tail with single-minded dedication. "Observe the sophisticated scent-masking procedure," Krells announced, his voice regaining its theatrical resonance. "The predator systematically eliminates all trace odors that might alert potential prey to its presence. This isn't simple grooming, it's stealth preparation for covert operations." The alien scholars immediately began taking notes, their devices recording every word. A crystalline being near the front emitted harmonic frequencies of admiration. When Mr. Whiskers found a patch of warm light from the overhead lamps and stretched out for a nap, Krells interpreted this as strategic energy management. "Remarkable," he declared. "The creature enters low-power mode between hunting cycles, conserving resources for maximum efficiency during active pursuit. This isn't laziness, it's advanced metabolic optimization." The avian scholars ruffled their feathers in appreciation of this tactical insight. Their note-taking intensified. The cat began purring softly, a low rumbling sound that echoed faintly in the amphitheater's acoustics. Krells seized on this immediately. "Note the subsonic vibrations," he told the audience, his eyes wide with discovery. "This isn't mere contentment, it's psychological warfare technology. The frequencies likely disorient prey species or communicate with other hunters over long distances." Gas-form entities swirled with patterns of academic excitement, their containment fields shimmering with renewed interest. Ambassador Thorne tried to interject. "Professor, he's just purring because he's comfortable. Cats do that when they're—" Krells cut him off with a wave of 3 hands. "The ambassador continues to underestimate his own planet's biological marvels," he told the audience condescendingly. "This apparent simplicity clearly masks profound strategic depth." Thorne sighed and shook his head, giving up once again. The alien scholars completely bought the reinterpretation. You could see them nodding along, their initial confusion replaced by academic fervor. They began speculating about advanced neural patterning, evolutionary deception strategies, and biomechanical warfare applications. Their notes shifted from fearful observations to admiring analysis of predatory innovation. The containment field seemed less ridiculous now, more like a necessary precaution for studying such sophisticated biological technology. Meanwhile, Mr. Whiskers rolled onto his back, exposing his belly to the warm light. He blinked sleepily at the audience, then began making tiny kneading motions with his front paws. Krells immediately classified this as combat reflex maintenance exercises. The scholars recorded it as evidence of persistent threat readiness programming. Their sensors detected the harmless behavior and translated it into increasingly elaborate tactical data. The cat's simple desire for a belly rub became invitation for tactical alliance formation in the official record. His occasional yawns were logged as threat display rehearsals. Even the way he occasionally flicked his tail while sleeping got interpreted as subconscious environmental monitoring systems. The academic recovery was complete. Every mundane behavior had been reinvented as evidence of supreme predatory intelligence. The entire amphitheater now viewed the napping cat with renewed respect and academic curiosity. They'd moved from fear to fascination. Their initial disappointment transformed into scholarly admiration. Professor Krells had successfully turned potential professional embarrassment into a career-defining theoretical breakthrough. His reputation wasn't just salvaged, it was enhanced. Mr. Whiskers, for his part, continued his nap completely unaware that his ordinary cat behaviors were being documented as advanced military tactics. He occasionally twitched an ear at the sound of the professor's voice, but otherwise remained focused on the important business of sleeping in the warm light. His biggest concern remained the distant memory of breakfast and the hopeful prospect of dinner, not the galactic academic revolution happening around him. Now witness the moment everything changes. Ambassador Thorne reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small plastic device. It's a simple laser pointer, the kind humans use to play with their pets or point at presentation slides. The red plastic casing shows some wear around the edges from being carried around regularly. He holds it up between thumb and forefinger, a completely ordinary object from any Earth office or home. The alien audience immediately interprets this as some advanced control technology. You can see the scholars leaning forward, their sensors focusing on the small device. The crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of concern. Gas-form entities swirl into defensive patterns. They're looking at a $5 toy and seeing a predator activation system. Their note-taking devices capture images of what they assume is sophisticated biotechnology. Professor Krells seizes the moment with dramatic flair. "Observe," he announces, his voice echoing through the amphitheater. "The handler prepares to activate the predator's hunting protocols." Note the compact design of the control interface, clearly optimized for field deployment. His 7 eyes track the laser pointer with academic fascination. The containment field hums at maximum strength, now seeming entirely justified. Thorne tries to explain the reality. "It's just a light toy," he says calmly. "Cats chase the dot because it moves. There's no technology beyond a basic laser and battery." He demonstrates by clicking the button, showing the simple red beam. The translation devices struggle with toy, defaulting to training device in most languages. The concept of play doesn't fully translate across some cultural boundaries. Krells dismisses the explanation with a wave of his hand. The ambassador consistently underestimates Earth's technological achievements, he tells the audience. This device clearly represents sophisticated behavior modification technology. The apparent simplicity masks advanced photon manipulation capabilities. The scholars nod knowingly, their earlier doubts replaced by academic certainty. They see cutting-edge science where there's only simple mechanics. The red dot appears on the containment field floor, a small circle of light against the neutral surface. It's just light, no heat signature, no energy reading beyond visual spectrum radiation. The alien sensors detect nothing remarkable, but the scholars interpret this as advanced stealth technology. Their notes fill with speculation about invisible energy fields and undetectable control mechanisms. Mr. Whiskers' head comes up slowly from his nap. His ears twitch forward. The pupils of his green eyes dilate from sleepy slits to full circles. His entire posture shifts from relaxed to alert in half a second. The slow blink of contentment becomes fixed, intense focus. His tail gives a single thoughtful twitch. You can see the transformation ripple through his body. The lazy stretch becomes coiled readiness. The sleepy gaze becomes laser-focused tracking. His head tilts slightly as he follows the red dot's movement. The soft purring stops, replaced by silent concentration. Every muscle tenses with predatory attention. The audience holds its collective breath. The academic interpretations vanish beneath primal reality. They're not watching theoretical predator analysis anymore. They're witnessing actual hunting instinct in motion. The contrast between their complex theories and the simple truth becomes suddenly beautifully obvious. Thorn moves the dot slightly, just a half-inch across the floor. Mr. Whiskers' head tracks the movement perfectly, his body following a fraction of a second later. The low, silent crouch begins, the universal predator stance that needs no translation. His weight shifts to his haunches, ready to spring. The transition from napping house pet to focused hunter is complete and undeniable. You've never seen a creature change states so completely. Mr. Whiskers locks onto the red dot with total focus, his entire world narrowing to that single point of light. His body shifts from relaxed to spring-loaded tension in milliseconds, muscles coiling like compressed energy springs. The lazy stretch vanishes, replaced by perfect predatory readiness. Every part of him aligns toward the target. The alien audience gasps in unison. They're witnessing biological transformation that defies their understanding of creature behavior. The bird-like scholars note the sudden posture change with academic intensity. Their feathers rustle with excitement as they observe what they believe is combat mode activation. The crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of astonishment, their structures subtly realigning to better observe the phenomenon. Professor Krell seizes the moment for dramatic narration.
"Observe the advanced targeting system calibration,"
he announces, his voice filled with academic triumph. He interprets the twitching tail as trajectory calculation indicators, and the focused stare as visual targeting lock. His 7 eyes track every minor movement, assigning strategic significance to each tiny motion. The scholars scribble frantic notes, their devices capturing every word. Mr. Whiskers' ears swivel independently, tracking invisible sounds in the amphitheater. His pupils dilate to maximum size, absorbing all available light for optimal vision. The cat's entire being concentrates on this invisible prey only he can perceive. His breathing slows, his whiskers angle forward, his weight distributes perfectly across his paws. He becomes pure hunting instinct embodied. Ambassador Thorn moves the laser dot slightly, just a few inches across the floor. Mr. Whiskers' head tracks the movement with precision that makes the avian species nervous. His body follows the motion in perfect synchronization, maintaining optimal attack positioning. The tracking is so exact it appears computerized, though it's purely biological instinct. The containment field hums pointlessly around this display of natural ability. The academic audience witnesses genuine predatory instinct in action for the first time. They see the reality of Earth-hunting behavior stripped of their theoretical frameworks. The Zephyr species notes the perfect spring tension in the cat's hind legs, interpreting it as advanced propulsion readiness. Crystalline beings admire the fluid motion that shows no wasted energy, recording it as efficient combat movement. But they're interpreting everything through completely wrong frameworks. They see military strategy where there's only play behavior. The cat's natural hunting stance becomes tactical combat posture in their notes. His instinctive tracking becomes advanced targeting computation. Every biological adaptation gets reinterpreted as technological achievement. The bird-like scholars specifically note the pupil dilation as enhanced visual processing and the ear orientation as acoustic tracking systems. They record the lowered body position as maximizing spring tension for attack launches. Their cultural bias toward aerial combat makes them see calculated maneuvers where there's only natural movement. Professor Krells continues his enthusiastic misinterpretation, describing the focused stare as psychologically intimidating threat display and the ready stance as persistent combat readiness. The aliens absorb this analysis without question. Their earlier fears transformed into academic admiration. They're witnessing ordinary cat behavior through lenses of interstellar military theory. The contrast between reality and interpretation couldn't be more striking. Mr. Whiskers simply wants to catch the shiny dot. The aliens believe they're watching advanced warfare technology demonstration. Their sensors detect basic biological functions, but their academic training translates them into complex tactical systems. The gap between actual feline behavior and alien perception continues to widen with every movement. But the real comedy comes from the academic commentary. The xenobiologists lean forward in their seats, data slates glowing as they analyze every twitch and ear flick as advanced tactical maneuvers. They see military brilliance where there's only simple play behavior. Their professional training transforming ordinary feline actions into strategic masterclasses. You can hear the rapid tapping as they input observations, their note-taking devices filling with increasingly elaborate interpretations. The bird-like zephyr species focuses on the visual tracking. Observe the photon acquisition and trajectory prediction, one scholar announces, marveling at how Mr. Whiskers follows the laser dot. They note the precision tracking that makes their own visual systems seem primitive by comparison. Their feathers rustle with academic excitement as they record each movement as evidence of advanced targeting technology. Another scholar speculates about multi-spectrum vision capabilities beyond their current understanding. Crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of admiration. They analyze the cat's movements through structural physics frameworks. Remarkable three-dimensional combat maneuvering, a crystalline scholar observes, interpreting Mr. Whiskers' jumps as complex spatial calculations. They note the perfect weight distribution during leaps and the precise landing coordination. Their analysis focuses on kinetic energy management and impact distribution systems they believe must be operating. Professor Krells declares they're witnessing null-gravity tactical adaptation, interpreting the cat's acrobatics as evidence of advanced environmental combat training. He describes the movements as perfect for zero-gravity engagement scenarios, citing theoretical military applications. His 7 eyes track every motion, assigning strategic significance to each paw placement and tail adjustment. The containment field seems increasingly justified as he elaborates on potential combat applications. Ambassador Thorne tries to cut through the speculation.
He's just playing with the light, she explains patiently.
Cats chase moving things. There's no strategy involved. She demonstrates by making the dot bounce randomly, showing there's no pattern or purpose beyond simple movement. The translation devices render playing as training exercise in most languages, maintaining the military framework. Krells dismisses her explanation with a wave of his hand. The ambassador demonstrates typical human failure to appreciate their own technological achievements, he tells the audience. This apparent simplicity masks sophisticated biological engineering. The scholars nod knowingly, their cultural bias toward complex explanations overriding the simple truth. They see deliberate design where there's only natural evolution. Mr. Whiskers' play becomes a masterclass in alien military science through pure misinterpretation. Every pounce gets analyzed as tactical engagement. Each missed jump becomes learning algorithm adjustment. The random chasing patterns become sophisticated combat drills. The scholars fill their notes with observations about advanced hunting systems and predator-prey dynamics that simply don't exist. Meanwhile, the cat just thinks he's playing with the shiny thing. His focus remains entirely on catching the elusive red dot. His occasional frustrated chirps when it disappears get interpreted as tactical communication signals. His happy jumps become demonstration of advanced propulsion techniques. The gap between reality and academic interpretation grows wider with each passing minute. The demonstration continues, with Thorne occasionally sighing and Krells growing increasingly enthusiastic. The alien scholars become more convinced they're witnessing military technology rather than natural behavior. Their initial fear has transformed into academic admiration, their notes filling with speculations about applications for their own defense systems. The simple laser pointer game has become the most significant xenobiological discovery of the decade. Now watch as the demonstration escalates unexpectedly. Ambassador Thorne moves the laser dot up the containment field wall, a simple red circle climbing the energy barrier. Mr. Whiskers doesn't hesitate. He launches himself vertically, executing perfect wall jumps that defy normal gravitational expectations. His movements combine precision with fluid grace, each paw finding invisible purchase on the smooth surface. The containment field hums as he climbs, his body twisting in midair with effortless control. The cat's movements seem to violate conventional alien physics understanding. He performs aerial maneuvers that appear to disregard normal momentum conservation, changing direction mid-leap with impossible-seeming adjustments. His body rotates in barrel rolls that make the avian species exchange stunned glances. They specialize in aerial mobility, yet here's a terrestrial creature outperforming their best acrobatics. Their feathers rustle with what might be professional envy. He lands with precision that makes the bird-like scholars visibly impressed. Each touchdown is silent and exact, weight distributed perfectly across all 4 paws. The crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of admiration, analyzing the perfect impact distribution. Gas form entities swirl in patterns that translate to disbelief at the kinetic control displayed. Their sensors detect no energy fields or anti-gravity technology, just pure biological capability. Professor Krells announces they're witnessing quantum hunting dynamics, his voice filled with academic excitement. He interprets the wall running as advanced vertical combat techniques and the mid-air adjustments as space-time manipulation tactics. His 7 eyes track every movement, assigning complex theoretical frameworks to simple feline agility. The scholars scribble frantic notes, their devices filling with observations about gravity-defying tactical approaches. Thorne mentions that cats often jump on furniture at home, trying to ground the spectacle in reality. He describes bookshelves and countertops as normal jumping surfaces for domestic felines. The translation devices render this as vertical terrain navigation training environments. The audience immediately interprets this information as evidence of household combat training preparation. Their notes expand to include domestic architecture analysis for tactical advantages. This gets interpreted as advanced household combat training environment preparation. The scholars begin speculating about urban warfare applications and interior space domination strategies. They analyze the wall jumps as perfect for building interior engagements and corridor combat scenarios. The crystalline beings note the potential for mineral structure climbing applications. The avian species discusses aerial superiority challenges from ground-based opponents. Ordinary feline agility becomes documented as advanced military acrobatics in their official records. Each jump gets analyzed for maximum efficiency and tactical advantage. The mid-air twists become evasion maneuvers against projectile weapons. The precise landings become stealth insertion techniques. The random chasing patterns become complex combat drills against unpredictable opponents. The demonstration continues with Mr. Whiskers completely focused on the elusive red dot. His occasional frustrated chirps when it moves too fast get recorded as tactical communication attempts. His successful jumps become evidence of perfect mission execution. The containment field contains nothing more dangerous than focused play behavior, but the academic interpretation has transformed it into a military technology display. The gap between reality and perception remains absolute. Mr. Whiskers simply enjoys the challenge of chasing the moving light. The aliens see advanced combat training and tactical innovation. Their cultural framework cannot accommodate the concept of pure play, so they interpret everything through military and survival lenses. The simple game continues, with Thorne occasionally sighing and Krells growing more enthusiastic with each jump. The academic audience becomes convinced they're witnessing revolutionary tactical mobility technology. Their initial fear has transformed into professional admiration, mixed with concern about terrestrial combat capabilities. They discuss defense strategy implications and potential military applications for their own forces. The simple laser pointer game has become the most significant tactical demonstration of the decade. But here's where the situation takes an unsettling turn. Mr. Whiskers suddenly stops chasing the laser dot mid-pounce. His entire body freezes in position, one paw still raised from his last attempted strike. The red dot continues bouncing across the containment field floor, but he completely ignores it. His attention shifts with almost mechanical precision. He turns his head slowly and looks directly at Ambassador Thorne. His green eyes lock onto the human with unnerving focus. His tail gives a single thoughtful twitch. The purring that had stopped during the hunt resumes, but now it sounds different, more deliberate, more intentional. He maintains perfect eye contact while the laser dot dances uselessly behind him. Professor Krells immediately seizes the moment. "Observe," he announces, his voice trembling with excitement. "Interspecies military cooperation at its finest." The predator has identified the control source and is issuing tactical directives to its human partner. His 7 eyes widen with academic triumph. The scholars lean forward, their note-taking devices humming with renewed intensity. The audience gasps at this apparent tactical communication. The bird-like zephyr species rustle their feathers in admiration. Crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of approval. Gas-form entities swirl into patterns that translate as tactical analysis. They see coordinated strategy where there's only a cat wanting the game to continue. Ambassador Thorne tries to explain the reality.
He just wants me to keep moving the light,
she says calmly. He's figured out I control it, she demonstrates by wiggling the laser pointer slightly. Mr. Whiskers' ears twitch toward the movement, but he keeps his gaze fixed on Thorne. His purr deepens, becoming almost a demand. Professor Krells interprets this completely differently. The predator directs the battle strategy, he declares. Note how it maintains visual contact while monitoring peripheral developments. This represents advanced multisensory combat coordination. The alien scholars nod enthusiastically, their cultural bias toward hierarchical command structures preventing them from seeing the simple truth. Mr. Whiskers takes a step toward Thorn, still purring loudly. His tail lifts into a confident curve. He blinks slowly, maintaining that steady gaze. The laser dot continues its pointless journey across the arena, completely ignored now. The cat's entire focus remains on the human holding the device. The aliens see this as proof of sophisticated handler-predator coordination. They note the maintained eye contact as evidence of communication protocols. The purring gets recorded as subsonic data transmission. The ignored laser dot becomes a distraction tactic meant to confuse hypothetical observers. Their interpretation grows increasingly elaborate with each passing second. Thorn sighs and shakes her head, giving up on correction. She moves the laser dot in a small circle. Mr. Whiskers' ears track the movement, but he still doesn't break eye contact. His purr becomes more insistent. He takes another step forward, his gaze never wavering. The message is clear to anyone who understands cats. Stop teasing and get on with the game. The professor sees only tactical brilliance. Remarkable discipline, he announces. The predator maintains strategic focus while its partner executes diversionary maneuvers. This level of coordination suggests advanced neural interfaces. The scholars record every word, their initial fears completely replaced by academic admiration. The gap between reality and interpretation has never been wider. Mr. Whiskers simply wants the fun to continue. The aliens believe they're witnessing military-grade interspecies cooperation. Their cultural framework cannot accommodate the concept of a pet wanting to play, so they see only sophisticated combat strategy. The simple interaction becomes the most significant tactical demonstration they've ever witnessed. You won't believe what happens next. Mr. Whiskers pads over to the shimmering containment field perimeter, his tail held high in casual curiosity. He sniffs at the energy barrier, whiskers twitching as they detect the faint ozone scent. Then he does something completely unexpected. He begins kneading the force field with his front paws, pressing rhythmically against the invisible barrier like it's a soft blanket. Professor Krells immediately seizes the moment. "Observe," he announces, his voice trembling with excitement. The predator systematically tests containment system weaknesses. Note the methodical pressure application to identify structural vulnerabilities. His 7 eyes widen with academic triumph as he interprets the innocuous behavior as advanced penetration testing. The scholars lean forward, their note-taking devices humming with renewed intensity. The audience watches in awe as the cat appears to analyze the field. The bird-like zephyr species rustle their feathers in admiration of what they perceive as tactical assessment. Crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of approval, analyzing the paw placement patterns for strategic significance. Gas-form entities swirl into patterns that translate as systematic approach documentation. They see sophisticated security evaluation where there's only ordinary feline behavior. Ambassador Thorn tries to explain the reality. "He's kneading because it feels comfortable," she says patiently. "Cats do this when they're content. It's a comfort behavior, not tactical assessment." She gestures toward Mr. Whiskers, who continues making biscuits against the energy field with obvious pleasure. His eyes have half closed in contentment and a soft purr rumbles through the amphitheater. Professor Krells dismisses the explanation with a wave of his hand. "The ambassador demonstrates typical human underestimation of strategic planning," he tells the audience. "This apparent comfort behavior masks advanced system analysis techniques." The scholars nod knowingly, their cultural bias toward complex explanations overriding the simple truth. They record every paw movement as evidence of sophisticated penetration testing methodology. Mr. Whiskers simply finds the energy field pleasantly warm. The gentle vibration feels good against his paw pads, reminding him of sun-warmed surfaces back home. His purr deepens as he continues the rhythmic motion, completely unaware that his comfort-seeking behavior is being documented as advanced security analysis. He shifts position slightly, finding a better angle for his kneading. Security systems remain completely uncompromised throughout the demonstration. The containment field hums at consistent levels, showing no stress indicators or integrity warnings. Monitoring equipment registers only normal operation parameters. The cat's paws make no actual contact with the energy. matrix, they simply press against the field's surface tension without affecting its structural integrity. The aliens see only what their fears and academic training prepare them to see. They interpret the rhythmic paw movements as systematic pressure testing. The content purring becomes evidence of psychological warfare tactics. The relaxed posture gets recorded as confidence in penetration capabilities. Their cultural framework cannot accommodate the concept of simple comfort-seeking behavior. The gap between reality and interpretation has never been more pronounced. Mr. Whiskers enjoys the warm vibration against his paws. The aliens believe they're witnessing advanced security assessment techniques. Their notes fill with speculation about field penetration methodologies and defensive system evaluation. The simple comfort behavior becomes the most significant security demonstration they've ever witnessed. Professor Krells declares the implications are staggering, interpreting the kneading as demonstration that their most advanced defensive systems are no more significant than comfort items. The scholars record his words verbatim, their initial fears transformed into academic admiration. They see revolutionary security testing where there's only a cat enjoying a warm surface. Now witness the dramatic shift in audience perception. Mr. Whiskers completes his exploration of the containment field, apparently finding the energy barrier suitable for his comfort, but ultimately unworthy of further attention. He steps away from the shimmering perimeter with an air of casual finality. The cat sits back down and begins grooming himself again, licking one paw and wiping it over his ear with methodical precision. The predator that had terrified them now seems completely harmless under the bright amphitheater lights. The bird-like scholar's defensive feather ruffling subsides into normal preening behavior. Crystalline beings emit harmonic frequencies of curiosity rather than alarm. Gas-form entities settle into calm, stable patterns. The initial fear that gripped the amphitheater dissolves into bemused observation. Professor Krells struggles to reconcile his dramatic claims with mundane reality. His 7 eyes blink in unsynchronized confusion as he watches the cat clean between his toes. The grand theories about advanced predation strategies seem increasingly disconnected from the simple creature before him. His posture, which had been rigid with academic certainty, now appears slightly deflated. The aliens begin questioning their initial fear responses. They exchange glances across species lines, their note-taking devices slowing. The Zephyr scholars discuss how their reaction might have been influenced by cultural bias, rather than actual threat assessment. Crystalline beings analyze their own response patterns with scientific detachment. The collective anxiety lifts like fog burning off under morning sun. Ambassador Thorne offers factual information about domestic cat behavior. She explains normal grooming routines, sleeping patterns, and play behaviors. Her voice carries calm authority without theatrical exaggeration. The translation devices now handle concepts like napping and sunbeam seeking with better accuracy. The cultural gap begins narrowing as simple facts replace elaborate theories. The professor reluctantly admits they may need revised assessment criteria. His voice loses its dramatic flair, adopting a more measured academic tone. He suggests existing predator classification systems might require adjustment for Earth species. The scholars nod in agreement, their earlier certainty replaced by professional curiosity. Their note-taking shifts from fear-based observations to genuine inquiry. Mr. Whiskers finds a patch of warm light from the overhead lamps and settles into it with obvious pleasure. He curls into a compact circle, tucking his paws beneath his body. His eyes close to contented slits. The soft purr returns, a gentle rumble that echoes faintly in the silent amphitheater. His interrupted nap resumes exactly where it left off. The containment field suddenly seems ridiculous for this sleeping creature. The Class 7 barriers designed to withstand plasma weapons now encircle 20 pounds of peacefully napping feline. Medical drones power down their emergency protocols. Security personnel relax their vigilant postures. The energy field's hum drops to maintenance levels as the perceived threat assessment plummets. Galactic science faces a paradigm shift in predator classification. The scholars discuss how appearance and behavior might not always indicate threat level. They consider how cultural context influences threat perception. The demonstration challenges fundamental assumptions about interspecies interaction and biological assessment. Established xenobiological frameworks require complete reevaluation. The transition from terror to understanding happens gradually but completely. Where there was fear, there's now curiosity. Where there was tension, There's relaxed observation. The amphitheater's atmosphere shifts from military briefing to educational demonstration. The aliens watch the sleeping cat with new eyes, seeing not a monster but a fascinating biological specimen. The contrast between initial expectations and final reality couldn't be more striking. The creature they anticipated would redefine galactic understanding of predation turns out to redefine their understanding of assumption itself. The demonstration's success lies not in revealing Earth's fiercest predator, but in revealing the galaxy's tendency toward dramatic misinterpretation. But the story doesn't end with the demonstration. Professor Krells immediately shifted from damage control to opportunity assessment, his professional pride recovering faster than you'd think possible. You could see the calculation happening behind those 7 eyes as he realized this might actually enhance his reputation rather than destroy it. He declared the event represented a new frontier in xenobiology, his voice taking on the authority of someone who had just witnessed the academic discovery of the century. The university administration responded with remarkable speed. They announced a semester-long study program dedicated to the Mr. Whiskers phenomenon, complete with research grants and specialized equipment allocations. The course description included prerequisites like quantum physics, advanced psychology, and what they called a really good understanding of why you should never ever visit Earth. Enrollment filled within hours of the announcement. Research programs immediately received funding to study what they termed feline quantum dynamics. Teams began designing experiments to analyze the wall-jumping techniques and photon tracking abilities they'd witnessed. Laboratory spaces were retrofitted with containment fields and observation equipment. The scientific community across multiple systems suddenly developed an intense interest in Earth's domestic animals. Ambassador Thorne found herself coordinating Mr. Whiskers' appearance schedule around his nap, times and feeding requirements. She had to explain that the galaxy's newest research subject required regular meals and couldn't be disturbed during his afternoon rest periods. Her diplomatic calendar now included notations like quantum hunting demonstration at 10:00, tuna delivery at noon, academic presentation at 2:00, mandatory napping until 4:30. Academic papers began circulating almost immediately. Scholars drafted studies on tactical photon manipulation and gravity-defying combat maneuvers. Peer-reviewed journals dedicated special issues to what they called applied predatory physics. The aliens were already composing research papers about quantum feline dynamics and interspecies military cooperation. Their initial fear completely transformed into academic fascination. The galaxy's scientific community became utterly obsessed with Earth felines. Research requests flooded diplomatic channels asking for additional specimens for study. Scholars proposed comparative studies between different Earth predator species, though everyone agreed they should probably start with the less dangerous ones first. The course prerequisites, including quantum physics and advanced psychology, reflected the seriousness with which they approached this new field. Meanwhile, maintenance drones continued their routine cleaning operations. Completely unaware of the historical significance of the space they were sanitizing, they methodically cleared away energy field residue and adjusted atmospheric controls, their programming untouched by the academic revolution happening around them. The contrast between their mundane tasks and the paradigm shift occurring in the amphitheater couldn't have been more striking. The resolution became clear within days. A house cat had become the subject of galactic academic revolution. Professor Krell's career reached new heights as the leading expert on Earth predator behavior. The university established a permanent research wing dedicated to interspecies dynamics. What began as a potential diplomatic disaster transformed into the most significant xenobiological advancement in recent memory. The academic aftermath demonstrated how quickly established institutions can adapt to unexpected discoveries. The initial misinterpretations became foundation stones for entirely new fields of study. The galaxy's understanding of predation, interspecies relations, and even basic physics underwent fundamental reevaluation because of one orange tabby cat's ordinary behavior. Here's the interesting part about human galactic relations. Ambassador Thorne watched Earth's status transform in real time across the amphitheater. Instead of the fearful glances and defensive postures from before the demonstration, she now saw curious expressions and thoughtful consideration. The aliens weren't looking at humans as potential threats anymore. They were looking at them as fascinating puzzles to be solved. Other species immediately wanted to understand this predator taming capability. Delegates approached Thorne after the demonstration with questions about human-animal relationships. They asked how humans had domesticated such efficient hunters. Their queries focused on partnership formation rather than combat techniques. The bird-like scholars wondered about training methods. Crystalline beings asked about biological compatibility. Everyone wanted to know how humanity had turned potential threats into companions. The galaxy slowly realized humanity's strength wasn't in monstrous beasts or advanced weaponry. It was in forming partnerships with seemingly ordinary creatures. They saw that humans hadn't conquered their world through brute force alone. They'd done it through collaboration with other species. This understanding fundamentally changed how other civilizations viewed Earth's place in the galactic community. Thorne reflected that Earth's reputation was actually safer this way. Being seen as clever partners was far better than being seen as terrifying conquerors. The demonstration had prevented more dangerous misunderstandings about human capabilities. Instead of preparing defense strategies against imagined war beasts, other species were now interested in cultural exchange and knowledge sharing. The miscalculation had worked in humanity's favor. Humanity's image shifted from potentially dangerous newcomers to intriguing collaborators. Other civilizations began viewing humans as strategic thinkers, rather than aggressive expansionists. The focus moved from military assessment to cultural study. Trade negotiations started, including requests for information exchange about Earth's ecosystem. Research partnerships formed around studying interspecies relationships. The resolution became clear within days of the demonstration. A house cat had done more for interspecies relations than decades of formal diplomacy. Mr. Whiskers' ordinary behavior had accomplished what countless diplomatic meetings had struggled to achieve. The shared experience created common ground where formal negotiations had often created distance. The galactic community's perception shifted from seeing humanity as a mystery to be solved to seeing them as partners to be understood. The fear of Earth's dangerous creatures transformed into curiosity about Earth's unique ecological relationships. Scientific interest replaced military concern. Cultural exchange programs began developing where defense strategists had previously dominated discussions. Thorne noticed how quickly the narrative changed in official communications. Reports now described humanity as innovative rather than threatening. Analysis focused on cooperative capabilities rather than combat readiness. The same behaviors that had been interpreted as dangerous now appeared clever and strategic. The academic misinterpretations had accidentally created a more favorable image. The demonstration's success lay in its complete unpredictability. No diplomatic strategy could have planned for a house cat redefining galactic relations. The accidental comedy of the situation made the lesson more memorable than any deliberate presentation. The aliens remembered the surprise and amusement more than they would have remembered carefully crafted diplomatic messages. Sometimes the most effective diplomacy happens when you're not even trying. Humanity's reputation improved precisely because the demonstration wasn't intended as a diplomatic statement. The authenticity of the situation made the impact more significant. The galaxy saw real human-animal interaction rather than calculated presentation. A sleeping cat had accomplished what armies of diplomats had struggled with for years. The simplicity of the solution contrasted beautifully with the complexity of the problem it solved. Interspecies relations improved because everyone could agree on one thing. That was one interesting cat. But wait until you hear about the broader cultural consequences that followed that single demonstration. Mr. Whiskers became a galactic celebrity overnight. His image appeared on news feeds across multiple systems. Academic journals featured his hunting techniques. Social media platforms filled with animated representations of his wall-jumping demonstration. The cat who napped through his own fame became the most talked-about creature in known space. Every species suddenly wanted their own Earth predator companion. Pet adoption programs launched across multiple systems within weeks. Shelter ships began transporting cats to new homes light years away. The demand far exceeded the supply, creating waiting lists that stretched for months. Alien families submitted applications explaining why they deserved such a prestigious companion. Cats became status symbols among alien elites. Wealthy crystalline beings installed special thermal perches in their residences. Avian scholars built elaborate climbing structures that mimicked Earth environments. Gas form entities developed specialized containment fields that allowed feline interaction without dispersion risk. Owning an Earth cat signaled both sophistication and access to rare interspecies resources. Ambassador Thorne found herself handling unprecedented diplomatic requests. She fielded inquiries about breeding pairs and training manuals daily. Her office developed standardized information packets about feline care and feeding. She had to explain repeatedly that cats weren't military technology, but domestic companions. The translation devices still occasionally rendered pet as tactical partner, despite her corrections. The galaxy developed an inexplicable fondness for creatures that nap. Alien cultures that previously valued constant activity began appreciating rest periods. Sleeping platforms became fashionable furniture across multiple species. The concept of afternoon nap entered Xing Jitong Yongyu as a borrowed Earth term. Scholars studied the health benefits of regular rest cycles. Humanity's reputation completed its shift from fearsome to fascinating. Other species now viewed humans as clever problem solvers rather than potential threats. The ability to form partnerships with efficient predators seemed more impressive than weapon development. Cultural exchange programs expanded to include animal husbandry techniques and companion animal studies. Interstellar trade routes suddenly included new commodity categories. Cat toys became high-demand export items, particularly laser pointers and feather wands. Specialized food formulations developed for different alien environments. Veterinary medical technology advanced to accommodate cross-species care. The economic impact reached multiple sectors almost overnight. The cultural adoption reflected a broader shift in values across galactic society. Play behavior became respected alongside work achievement. Comfort-seeking gained recognition as valid biological need. The simple pleasure of watching a creature sleep became culturally acceptable entertainment. Alien artists created works inspired by feline grace and mystery. Academic institutions expanded their course offerings beyond predator studies. Anthropology departments added human-animal relationship courses. Psychology programs developed interspecies communication studies. Even engineering schools began analyzing feline movement patterns for robotics applications. The demonstration's impact reached far beyond its original scope. Social structures adapted to accommodate new companion species. Public spaces developed pet-friendly zones with appropriate environmental controls. Transportation systems updated their policies for animal passengers. Medical facilities established cross-species veterinary wings. The infrastructure changes represented significant investment in this new cultural direction. The resolution became clear within months. A single demonstration had changed galactic culture forever. What began as academic curiosity transformed into widespread societal shift. The fear of Earth's predators became appreciation for Earth's companions. The misunderstanding that started the phenomenon ultimately created stronger interspecies connections than anyone could have predicted. Now consider the long-term scientific implications that rippled across academic institutions. Galactic University established permanent feline studies programs within months of the demonstration. The xenobiology department underwent complete restructuring, adding specialized tracks focused specifically on Earth's domestic species. Research facilities installed custom environmental controls to accommodate living specimens. The initial semester-long study expanded into a multi-year curriculum with practical fieldwork components. Xenobiology textbooks underwent comprehensive rewriting with entirely new predator classification systems. Previous models based solely on physical threat assessment gave way to more nuanced frameworks considering behavioral complexity. The old taxonomic charts that place creatures like Mr. Whiskers alongside venomous reptiles got replaced with multi-dimensional classification matrices. Academic publishers rushed revised editions to market, their covers featuring stylized representations of feline hunters. The Mr. Whiskers theorem entered formal academic discourse, representing the principle that apparent biological simplicity might mask sophisticated adaptive strategies. Graduate students wrote dissertations applying the theorem to other species across the galaxy. Peer-reviewed journals dedicated special issues to exploring its implications beyond xenobiology. The theorem became standard citation in papers about interspecies communication and evolutionary adaptation. Research continued into what scholars termed PER-based communication systems. Acoustic laboratories analyzed the vibrational patterns for potential information transmission capabilities. Teams studied whether different PER frequencies correlated with specific environmental conditions or social contexts. The research combined traditional xenobiology with advanced signal processing technology, creating an entirely new interdisciplinary field. Ambassador Thorne made occasional visits to keep the scientific community grounded in reality. She attended symposiums as the resident reality check, patiently explaining that purring usually meant contentment rather than tactical communication. Her simple corrections often halted months of complex theoretical development. The scholars appreciated her input while frequently continuing their elaborate interpretations regardless. Professor Krells eventually admitted the value of practical observation over theoretical modeling. His published papers began including disclaimers about cultural assumption risks. He started collaborating with field researchers rather than dismissing their findings. The change came gradually but fundamentally altered his research methodology. His academic reputation actually improved through this demonstrated intellectual flexibility. Alien scientists across multiple disciplines learned to question their initial assumptions more often. The demonstration became a standard case study in research methodology courses. Graduate programs incorporated assumption testing protocols into their core curricula. The scientific community developed new peer-review checklists specifically for cultural bias detection. The shift represented perhaps the most significant change in galactic science methodology in centuries. The demonstration achieved legendary status in academic circles. It became shorthand for paradigm-shifting discoveries that challenge fundamental assumptions. Senior researchers referenced it when encouraging junior scientists to think differently. The story spread beyond xenobiology into other scientific fields, serving as a reminder that sometimes the most important discoveries come from unexpected places. What began as a simple misunderstanding transformed into lasting scientific progress. The initial comedy of errors produced genuine methodological improvements. Academic institutions adopted more flexible approaches to new discoveries. Research protocols now regularly include assumption testing phases before theoretical development. The entire scientific community became more open to unexpected interpretations. The resolution became clear over time. One cat taught the galaxy to question its preconceptions. The demonstration's impact reached far beyond feline studies, influencing how all scientific inquiry gets conducted. Researchers now approach new subjects with more humility and curiosity. The legacy continues shaping galactic science, ensuring that open-mindedness remains as important as rigorous methodology. Sometimes the simplest lessons make the deepest impact. Here's the beautiful irony of the entire situation. Mr. Whiskers returns to his ordinary life on Earth, completely unaware of his newfound galactic celebrity status. His daily routine remains unchanged, napping in sunbeams, knocking small objects off surfaces, and demanding meals with persistent meows. The creature that revolutionized interstellar relations still spends his afternoons sleeping on Ambassador Thorne's office chair, one paw draped over his eyes to block the light. The galaxy's most celebrated predator remains oblivious to his fame. His biggest concerns involve tuna delivery schedules and the optimal temperature for napping spots. He doesn't know that academic papers analyze his hunting techniques. He hasn't seen the merchandise featuring his likeness across multiple star systems. While scholars debate his quantum movement patterns, he's busy trying to catch dust motes in a sunbeam. Thorne schedules the cat's interstellar appearances around his feeding times and nap preferences. Diplomatic calendars now include notations like quantum hunting demonstration at 10, nap period until 2 harm, treaty signing at 3:30. The galaxy's most important diplomatic tool requires regular meals and doesn't like being disturbed during his afternoon rest. This creates fascinating scheduling challenges for interstellar relations. The cat's simple needs contrast sharply with complex alien interpretations. Where scholars see advanced tactical systems, there's only a creature who wants food and comfort. The sophisticated predator assessment protocols analyze an animal who primarily thinks about sleeping and eating. The gap between reality and academic perception remains absolute, maintained by Mr. Whiskers' consistent ordinary behavior. Humanity's reputation benefits enormously from this accidental diplomacy. The demonstration created a more favorable image than any deliberate campaign could achieve. Other species now view humans as clever partners rather than potential threats. Trade agreements include clauses about cultural exchange and knowledge sharing. The misunderstanding ultimately strengthened Earth's position in galactic society. The demonstration prevented more dangerous misunderstandings about Earth's capabilities. Instead of preparing defenses against imagined war beasts, other civilizations seek collaboration. Research focuses on cultural exchange rather than military assessment. The accidental comedy of the situation made the lesson more memorable than any formal presentation could have been. Sometimes, the fiercest predator is the one that sleeps the most. Mr. Whiskers demonstrates that true power doesn't always look like power. His influence comes from being exactly what he is, without pretense or performance. The galaxy learned to appreciate simplicity because of his consistent normal behavior. The contrast between expectation and reality became the most valuable lesson. Comfort and normalcy became the galaxy's most unexpected teachers. Scholars now study relaxation as seriously as they study combat. Napping platforms appear in alien homes across multiple systems. The concept of harmless companionship gains respect alongside military strength. Sometimes the most profound truths come wrapped in ordinary packaging. The resolution remains beautifully simple. A cat napping in a sunbeam accomplished what decades of diplomacy struggled to achieve. His ordinary needs created extraordinary understanding. The galaxy learned that sometimes what seems insignificant might be exactly what matters most. The most valuable lessons often come from unexpected teachers. So the galaxy learned that true influence often rests in places we overlook. The most effective power doesn't always announce itself with roars or displays of force. It can come curled quietly in a sunbeam, expecting nothing more than a scratch behind the ears. Sometimes reality is simpler than our grandest theories. What seems ordinary might hold the deepest truths if we're willing to look past what we expect to see. After all, the universe's clearest lessons are often hiding just behind our own assumptions.